People walked past the dog every single day. No one stopped. No one asked why he was chained to a street pole with a cardboard sign that said, $1 for the beast. To most people, he looked dangerous, broken, unwanted, just another problem to ignore. But his eyes told a different story. His ribs showed through his dirty fur. The chain had rubbed his neck raw. He didn't bark. He didn't growl. He just stared at the ground, like he had accepted that no one would ever save him. Until today, a little girl in a bright red dress suddenly stopped walking. She held her father's hand tighter. Her eyes filled with sadness no child should ever feel. "Daddy, can I buy that dog?" she whispered. People around her turned in surprise. Even the father didn't know what to say. A police officer named Ryan stepped closer, trying to smile. But the moment the dog slowly lifted his head, Ryan's smile disappeared. The dog wasn't angry. He wasn't wild. He looked scared and hopeful, like he recognized something no one else could see. The little girl took one small step toward him. The dog's tail moved, just once, like he was begging for one more chance at life. People whispered, "Why that dog? He's dangerous. No one wants him." But the girl wasn't listening. She knelt down, tears running down her cheeks, and whispered, "I'll take him. I don't care what anyone says." The entire street went silent. And what happened next shocked everyone watching. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. Sunday mornings were usually peaceful for Officer Ryan Carter. It was the only day he tried to forget uniforms, reports, and emergencies. Today, he simply wanted to enjoy a slow walk through Main Street with his 6-year-old daughter, Lily. The sun was warm, the shops were opening, and the town felt calm in a way he rarely experienced during work. Lily held his hand tightly as she skipped beside him, her red dress swishing with every step. Ryan watched her with a soft smile. Moments like these were rare, and he cherished them more than anything. For once, there was no rush, no danger, no shouting radios. Just a father and his little girl, enjoying the quiet morning air together. They walked past the bakery, the bookstore, and the flower shop. Lily paused every few steps to point at something she found interesting: colorful cupcakes, a shelf of stuffed animals, a window full of bright sunflowers. Ryan let her take her time. He always encouraged her curiosity, especially on days like this. She tugged on his hand excitedly, showing him a small bird perched on a bench. Ryan laughed softly. Lily had a way of seeing beauty in the smallest moments, a way of reminding him that the world wasn't always about chaos and crime. Her innocence was his escape. But just as they turned toward the center of the street, Lily suddenly stopped. Her grip tightened around Ryan's fingers. She didn't speak. She didn't move. Her eyes had locked onto something ahead, something that made her expression change instantly. Ryan followed her gaze, expecting to see another animal or a toy left on the ground. Instead, he saw a German shepherd sitting alone near a street lamp. The dog was chained, its head lowered, its posture tense and defeated. Beside it was a piece of torn cardboard with uneven handwriting: $1 for the beast. The sign looked careless, but the message hit Ryan harder than he expected. He took a step closer, studying the dog carefully. It wasn't growling or barking. If anything, it looked scared. Its ears drooped, and its eyes flicked upward nervously every time someone passed by. The chain around its neck was thick and heavy, far too heavy for a dog that wasn't resisting at all. Something about the scene felt wrong. Lily didn't speak, but her eyes were wide and full of concern. Slowly, she whispered, "Daddy, why is he sitting like that?" Ryan didn't have an answer. He only knew one thing. This wasn't just a dog tied to a pole. Something deeper was hidden in those sad, silent eyes. Ryan took a slow step forward, studying the German shepherd more carefully. Something about the dog's posture made his stomach tighten. Most dogs barked or wagged their tails when people approached, but this one didn't move. He sat stiffly, as if afraid to make a mistake. His shoulders were hunched, his tail tucked tightly against his body, and his breathing came in soft, uneven bursts. The sunlight revealed faint scars along his fur, some healed, some fresh. Whoever had left him here hadn't cared about him. That much was clear. But it was the dog's eyes that struck Ryan the hardest. They weren't wild or aggressive. They were tired and hopeless. Lily slowly stepped closer, her small voice shaky. "Daddy, why does he look sad?" she whispered. Ryan didn't know how to answer. He crouched beside her and watched the dog closely. Every time someone walked by, the dog flinched. If a car door slammed in the distance, he lowered his head further, bracing for something that never came. That wasn't normal behavior. This was fear, deep, conditioned fear. He wasn't a beast. He was a dog who had been through something he couldn't forget. Ryan's chest tightened. He had seen that look before in dogs rescued from abusive homes or harsh training facilities. But this felt different. This felt heavier. The cardboard sign bothered him even more. $1 for the beast. It was cruel. Whoever wrote it didn't care if the dog went to a good home or a bad one. They just wanted him gone. No owner who loved their dog would use that word. No one who cared would tie a dog to a metal pole on a busy street and disappear. Ryan's instincts, the ones that had kept him alive through years of policing, whispered that this wasn't a simple case of abandonment. Something bigger was behind it. He couldn't explain it yet, but he felt it. Lily tugged on his sleeve. "Daddy, can we help him?" Her voice was soft, filled with genuine concern. The innocence in her question cut through Ryan's hesitation. He looked at the dog again. The shepherd lifted his eyes for a brief moment, just long enough for Ryan to see the pain hidden inside them. It wasn't the look of a dangerous animal. It was the look of someone who had lost everything and didn't know how to ask for help. And for the first time that morning, Ryan felt the quiet street shift. This wasn't just a random moment. Something about this dog didn't belong here. And deep inside, Ryan knew this encounter was about to change everything. Lily stood completely still, her eyes fixed on the German shepherd as though the rest of the world had faded away. Ryan gently squeezed her hand, trying to guide her forward, but she didn't move. Instead, she slowly walked toward the dog, stopping a few feet away. The shepherd lifted his head just enough to see her. His ears twitched, his gaze uncertain, but he didn't growl. He didn't even shift away. Lily's voice came out barely above a whisper, trembling with softness only a child could have. "Daddy, can I buy that police dog?" The words hit Ryan like a sudden jolt. Police dog? He hadn't said anything about the dog's breed or training. How did she know? Ryan crouched beside her, confused. "Sweetheart," he said gently, "why do you think he's a police dog?" Lily didn't look at him. Her small eyes stayed locked on the dog's tired face. "Because he's not bad," she whispered. "He's scared. Police dogs get scared like this when they lose somebody." Ryan's breath caught for a moment. It wasn't logic. It wasn't knowledge. It was pure instinct, the kind children had before the world taught them to ignore their hearts. He looked at the dog again, this time more carefully. There was something familiar in the way the shepherd held himself, alert yet broken, trained yet lost. The dog lifted his paw weakly, as if attempting a gesture, but stopping halfway, unsure if he was allowed. That small movement made Lily take another step forward. Ryan quickly placed a hand on her shoulder, guiding her back. "Easy," he murmured. The shepherd didn't react aggressively. Instead, he lowered his gaze again, ashamed, almost apologetic. It was a behavior Ryan had seen in trained dogs punished too many times. Dogs that once followed commands with pride, but eventually forgot what safety felt like. Lily didn't understand all of that, but she felt it. She turned to Ryan, her face serious in a way he rarely saw. "Daddy, someone hurt him," she said quietly. "But he still wants to be good." Ryan swallowed, his throat tight. Children didn't fake that kind of empathy. She had felt something he hadn't recognized yet. And when he looked at the shepherd again, he realized something else. There was intelligence behind those fearful eyes. Trained intelligence. The kind only service dogs carried. Lily's question wasn't random. It wasn't childish. It came from something inside her that connected to the broken animal sitting on the sidewalk. Ryan straightened slowly. He wasn't sure what this meant yet, but one thing was clear. Lily's innocent question had opened a door he couldn't close. And whatever lay on the other side, it had just begun. Ryan stepped a little closer, his police instincts slowly sharpening beneath the calm morning air. At first, he had tried to see the dog the way any passerby would, a stray, abandoned, maybe even aggressive. But now, as he watched more carefully, he saw details most people would overlook. The dog's posture wasn't wild or unpredictable. It was controlled. Even in fear, he held himself with a quiet discipline. His eyes moved in slow, scanning patterns, not darting randomly like an untrained dog. When someone walked by with a stroller, he didn't lunge or bark. Instead, he shifted his weight just enough to give space. That wasn't a stray's behavior. That was training. Ryan gently cleared his throat, testing something. In a low, calm tone, he said, "Stay." The dog didn't move, not even a flinch. His breathing slowed, as if waiting for the next command. Ryan tried again, using a different tone, one officer's often used with canine units. "Easy down." The shepherd lowered his head slightly, not fully lying down, but showing he recognized the cue. A chill ran down Ryan's spine. This wasn't coincidence. This dog had been trained, and trained well. Lily watched with wide eyes, sensing the shift in her father's attitude. He crouched lower, keeping his distance, and observed the dog's collar. It was worn but sturdy, not the cheap kind someone would buy for a street animal. The leather was thick, and the metal clip was heavy-duty, the type used for working dogs. The chain attached to it, however, was rough and mismatched, as if someone had replaced the original leash with whatever they could find. That alone told Ryan something important. Whoever tied this dog here didn't care about him. But someone before that man definitely did. Lily tugged on Ryan's sleeve softly. "Daddy, he listens to you." Ryan nodded slowly, his thoughts racing. "Yeah," he whispered, "because someone taught him how. And not just anyone." This level of responsiveness didn't come from backyard training or amateur owners. It came from structured commands, consistency, discipline. It came from law enforcement, military, search and rescue. This dog belonged to someone who needed him to obey under pressure. Someone who trusted him with their life. Ryan's heart tightened unexpectedly. If this dog was truly a former working animal, then something terrible must have happened for him to end up chained on a street corner with a cardboard sign. Dogs like this weren't given away casually. They were partners, heroes, family. Lily looked up at Ryan, concern filling her small voice. "We can't leave him, Daddy, can we?" Ryan didn't answer immediately, but deep inside, he already knew the truth. This dog wasn't just lost. He had been thrown away, and Ryan couldn't walk away from that, not now. Ryan was still studying the dog's collar when a shadow stretched across the pavement. Someone had stepped between them and the sun. He looked up to see a rough-looking man approaching, mid-40s, unshaven, clothes wrinkled, eyes darting around like he didn't want to be noticed. He carried a cheap paper cup of coffee, but his grip on it was tense, almost nervous. "You looking to buy him?" the man asked, jerking his thumb toward the German shepherd. His tone was careless, but something in his voice felt forced, as if he was hiding something behind the casual act. Ryan didn't stand. He simply lifted his eyes, calm and controlled. "Is he yours?" he asked. The man shrugged. "Found him a few days ago. He's trouble. Figured someone might take him off my hands." His explanation came too quickly. His eyes didn't hold steady. And more importantly, the dog's reaction wasn't normal. The moment the man stepped closer, the shepherd's entire body tensed. His ears pressed back, his tail curled deeper under him, and his breathing sped up. This wasn't fear of a stranger. This was fear of someone familiar, someone who had hurt him before. Lily gripped Ryan's arm, her voice trembling. "Daddy, he doesn't like that man." She wasn't wrong. The shepherd lifted his gaze just long enough to look at the man, then immediately lowered it again, trembling harder than before. A dog with this level of training wouldn't show such fear unless something very serious had happened. Ryan's jaw tightened. He had seen this same behavior in abused rescue dogs brought into the precinct, dogs that flinched at the sight of their previous owners. The man forced a laugh. Don't worry, he ain't dangerous. Just stupid. Can't do anything right. Ryan's eyes narrowed. No trained German Shepherd was stupid. That was a lie, and not even a good one. He stood slowly, placing himself slightly in front of Lily, without making it obvious. Years of policing had taught him how to read people, and everything about this man screamed trouble. His posture, his tone, the shifting of his feet, none of it matched the story he was trying to sell. "How much did you say?" Ryan asked carefully, watching the man's reaction. The man brightened too quickly. "Just $1. I ain't picky. I just want him gone." That was the biggest red flag yet. No one gave away a German Shepherd, especially a trained one, for a single dollar. Not unless they had something to hide. The dog trembled again, letting out a faint whine, almost a plea. Lily stepped closer to Ryan, whispering, "Daddy, please don't let him take the dog back." Ryan didn't know the truth yet, but one thing was clear. This man wasn't telling the whole story. The man took one careless step closer, and the shepherd reacted instantly. His entire body shuddered, muscles tightening as if preparing for something painful. But he didn't bark. He didn't growl. He simply shrank back, pressing himself as far as the chain allowed, his chest rising and falling with sharp, panic breaths. Ryan watched closely. Fear in a trained dog wasn't random. There was always a reason behind it. And this reaction was too strong, too immediate, to be fake. The shepherd's trembling worsened when the man bent slightly, pretending to pat his leg. "See," the man said with a forced grin, "he respects me. Just scared of strangers." But the lie was obvious. The dog wasn't scared of strangers. He was scared of him. Lily moved behind Ryan, clutching his shirt. "Daddy, don't let him touch the dog," she whispered urgently. Ryan didn't respond, but he positioned himself closer to the shepherd. The dog turned his head slightly, eyes darting between Ryan and Lily, almost as if seeking protection. His pupils were wide, his ears pinned tightly to his skull, and his tail tucked impossibly close. This was trauma, deep and familiar. No dog behaved like this unless someone had repeated the same cruelty over and over. The man clicked his tongue impatiently. "Look, buddy, if you want him, take him. If not, I'll just drag him to the alley. Someone else'll deal with him." Drag him? Ryan felt a surge of anger rise in his chest. He kept his voice controlled, but his eyes hardened. Why would you drag him anywhere? What exactly did he do wrong? The man shrugged, irritation flashing across his face. "He's useless. Won't fight. Won't bark. Won't even bite when you tell him to. What's the point of a dog that's scared of everything?" Lily flinched at his words, and the shepherd curled into himself even more. That was it. Ryan didn't need more proof. This dog hadn't been found. He had been mistreated, maybe trained harshly, maybe punished unfairly, but definitely hurt. And now someone was trying to get rid of him before anyone asked questions. The shepherd lifted his head again, just slightly, and looked directly at Ryan. This time, something changed. His eyes weren't just fearful, they were pleading. Silent, desperate, begging for someone to stop what was about to happen. Lily stepped forward, her voice shaking but determined. "Daddy, he's asking us to help." Ryan's heart tightened. She was right. The signs were all there. A trained dog reduced to fear. A man desperate to sell him for nothing. A chain that didn't match the collar. Every detail pointed to a single truth. This German shepherd had been hurt by the very person now pretending to give him away. Ryan took a slow breath. He couldn't walk away anymore. Ryan stood still, quietly absorbing everything he had just witnessed. His instincts screamed that something was wrong, but another part of him reminded him he was off duty, in casual clothes, just trying to enjoy a morning with his daughter. He didn't want trouble, not today. He cleared his throat, trying to step back mentally. "Come on, Lily," he said softly. "We should keep walking." But Lily didn't move. Her little fingers tightened around his hand, her eyes fixed on the trembling shepherd. "Daddy, he's scared," she whispered. "If we leave him, he'll think nobody wants him." Her words pierced deeper than Ryan expected. He looked once more at the dog, who sat hunched near the pole, trembling like he expected the world to hurt him again. The German shepherd lifted his eyes, not fully, just enough to meet Ryan's gaze for a fraction of a second. It was a look Ryan had seen only a few times in his career, animals who had lost faith but still carried a tiny spark of hope. A spark that flickered at the sight of kindness. The shepherd let out a soft, broken whine, almost too quiet to hear. It wasn't a complaint. It was a plea. Ryan exhaled slowly. He truly tried, to convince himself to walk away. Maybe animal control can handle it, he reasoned silently. Maybe someone else will help. But deep down, he knew the truth. People who cared didn't walk past scenes like this. People who ignored these moments usually regretted it later. Lily tugged on his sleeve again, her voice barely audible. "Daddy, we can't leave him with that man." She wasn't begging this time. She was stating a fact she felt in her heart. The dog shifted slightly, the chain rattling softly. Even that tiny sound made him flinch. And when Ryan saw the shepherd's ribs lift under his thin fur, breathing fast, shallow, afraid, something inside him snapped into place. He had handled dangerous arrests, midnight rescues, and tense standoffs throughout his career. But sometimes, the hardest moments weren't the ones filled with chaos. They were the quiet ones, where a decision changed everything. He straightened slowly and looked at Lily. "Stay behind me," he instructed gently. She nodded, trusting him completely. Ryan turned toward the man selling the dog, but his mind was no longer debating. He had made his choice. He couldn't walk away, not when a trained dog had been reduced to this, not when Lily had seen his suffering, and not when every instinct in him said this animal needed help. The shepherd's soft whine came again, this time directed at Ryan. And Ryan understood. He was the dog's last chance. Ryan knelt slowly beside the German shepherd, keeping his movements calm and steady. The dog watched him carefully, ears pinned back, body trembling. But he didn't try to pull away. Instead, he lowered his head, allowing Ryan to come closer, as if he had finally chosen someone he could trust. Ryan gently reached for the dog's collar, his fingers brushing against the worn leather. The collar looked old, used, and expensive, definitely not the kind a careless stranger would buy. The metal buckle was scratched deeply, and the leash ring had been replaced with a rough piece of wire. Something wasn't adding up. He turned the collar slightly to check for a tag. Surprisingly, there was one, but the engraved number had been scratched out so aggressively that only faint lines remained. Someone had wanted to erase the dog's identity. Ryan frowned. "Why would anyone do that?" he whispered. Lily, standing right behind him, leaned closer. "Daddy, what does it mean?" Ryan didn't answer immediately. He studied the faint markings, trying to see if anything was left. But the scratches were too deep. Whoever did this didn't want the dog traced. He parted the fur on the dog's neck carefully, checking for any sign of injury. But what he found made him freeze. Beneath the fur, pressed into the skin like an old mark of service, was a faded tattoo, small, precise, and unmistakable. Ryan's breath caught. He had seen this hundreds of times in his career. It was a canine identification tattoo. Not from a pet store. Not from a backyard breeder. This dog had been part of a trained unit. A working dog. A police dog. A chill ran through Ryan's chest. A trained canine didn't just vanish and end up chained to a street lamp. And no officer would ever give up a trained partner for a single dollar. Something had happened. Something big enough for someone to try to hide the dog's past. Lily saw the shock on her father's face. "Daddy, why is there a number on him?" she asked softly. Ryan ran a shaky hand through his hair. "Sweetheart, he used to belong to someone important. Someone who trained him to protect people." Lily's eyes widened as she looked at the trembling shepherd with new understanding. "He was a hero," she whispered. The dog lifted his head slightly, as if he recognized the word. Ryan swallowed hard. Heroes weren't abandoned. They weren't chained and labeled monsters. This dog's story wasn't just sad, it was wrong. He stood up slowly, turning toward the suspicious man. His tone changed, calm, controlled, but razor sharp. "Where did you get this dog?" And for the first time, the man didn't have an answer ready. Ryan kept his eyes locked on the man, but inside, his mind was already racing. A canine tattoo wasn't something anyone could fake easily. It meant this dog was once registered, trained, and assigned to an officer. That meant there was paperwork, records, a history that couldn't simply disappear. While the man fidgeted with his coffee cup, avoiding eye contact, Ryan slowly slipped his phone from his pocket. He stepped slightly aside, pretending to check a message, but his voice lowered into a controlled whisper. "Dispatch, this is Carter. I need a quiet lookup. Possible missing, K9 unit, no sirens, no attention. Just information." The dispatcher on the other end paused, picking up on the tension in his tone. "Copy that. Description." Ryan glanced at the dog, who now rested his head low but kept his eyes on Ryan, as if sensing something finally moving in his favor. "Male German Shepherd," Ryan murmured. 4 to 6 years old. Light brown coat, black saddle, identification tattoo on lower neck. Collar tag scratched out intentionally. The dispatcher typed quickly. "Give me a minute." Lily knelt beside the dog, gently touching his paw. This time, he didn't pull away. Instead, he let her small hand rest there, his breathing slowing just a little. It was the first calm reaction he had shown all morning. "See, Daddy?" Lily whispered. "He trusts us." Ryan didn't answer, but her words settled in his chest. Trust wasn't something a dog in this condition gave easily. Yet here he was, choosing them. The man shifted on his feet, growing noticeably uncomfortable. "Look, are you buying him or not?" he snapped. "I don't have all day." Ryan lifted his eyes slowly, his expression unreadable. "Just waiting on something," he said. The man's jaw twitched. His fingers tapped anxiously against the coffee cup. Every sign pointed to guilt. The dispatcher returned. Her voice had changed, tighter, more serious. "Carter, we have a match. A K9 unit reported missing 3 weeks ago. Name, Shadow. Handler, Officer Daniel Briggs. Status of officer deceased in the line of duty." Ryan's stomach dropped. "Deceased," he repeated quietly. "Yes," the dispatcher confirmed. "Dog presumed dead as well. Both disappeared during an off-duty attack. Dog was never recovered." Ryan's hand tightened around the phone. The shepherd, Shadow, looked up at him right at that moment, as if hearing his own name through instinct alone. Pain flickered in those tired eyes, something raw and familiar. Lily gasped softly. "Shadow," she whispered. The dog's ears twitched. Ryan ended the call slowly. The truth was forming, piece by piece. This wasn't a stray. This wasn't a beast. This was a missing police hero who had survived something unimaginable, only to be sold on a street corner for $1. And the man selling him wasn't done answering questions. Ryan lowered his phone slowly, the weight of the dispatcher's words pressing heavily on his chest. Shadow. The name echoed in his mind. Not just a dog, but a trained partner who had once served beside an officer who never made it home. Ryan had read the report weeks earlier. Officer Daniel Briggs ambushed off-duty. His K9 missing, presumed dead. The department had held a small memorial for the dog too, believing he had died protecting his handler. But here he was, shaking, starving, terrified, chained to a pole like trash someone wanted to throw away. Lily stroked Shadow's paw gently, unaware of the full truth, but sensing something big. The shepherd didn't flinch. In fact, he pushed his paw a little closer into her hand as if grounding himself. "Daddy," she whispered, "Shadow isn't a bad dog, he's a good one." Ryan nodded slowly. "He's better than good," he murmured. "He's a hero." The words made Lily's eyes widen, but Shadow's reaction was even stronger. His ears twitched, and he lifted his head just a little, as though the memory of who he once was flickered faintly inside him. Meanwhile, the man selling him grew impatient. "Look, officer, or whatever you are, I don't care about the dog's past. I just want him gone." His tone sharpened. "He's been nothing but trouble since I found him." Ryan's eyes narrowed. "Found him where?" The man hesitated. "Too long." His jaw clenched. "Does it matter? He was just wandering around injured. I fixed him up, and now I'm selling him." Another lie. Shadow's wounds, scars, and condition told a completely different story. Ryan crouched again, speaking softly to Shadow. "Buddy, can you sit?" Shadow's response was immediate. He straightened slightly and lowered his rear, sitting in a perfect, trained posture. He was weak, frightened, and exhausted, but training ingrained in him from years of service hadn't faded. Lily gasped, "Daddy." He listened. Ryan nodded, his suspicion now solid truth. This dog had once followed commands proudly beside a partner he trusted with his life. Ryan looked up at the man. "You didn't find him," he said calmly. "You took him. Or someone gave him to you. And either way, you knew he was trained." The man's face darkened. "Believe what you want. I just want the dog off my hands." His voice was shaky now, his confidence fading by the second. But there was one detail he didn't expect Ryan to know. Trained K9s weren't afraid of everything, but they were terrified of cruelty. And Shadow's entire body told the truth long before the man did. Ryan stood fully, his decision made. Shadow wasn't a beast. He was a survivor, and his story was nowhere near over. Ryan stepped forward, placing himself between the man and Shadow. His expression stayed calm, but there was a sharpness in his eyes that made the man shift uneasily. "You keep changing your story," Ryan said quietly. "First you found him. Then he's trouble. Then he's useless. Now you want to get rid of him fast." The man rolled his shoulders, trying to look confident, but the tremor in his voice betrayed him. "What's it to you? He's my dog now. I can sell him if I want." Ryan didn't blink. A trained K9 with a scratched-out ID tag? That's not just a dog. That's evidence. The man's face tightened, irritation replacing his fake calm. "Look, man, you're making this a big deal. He ain't worth anything. I just want him gone." Lily, still holding Shadow's paw gently, stepped closer to Ryan. "Daddy, don't let him take Shadow," she whispered, fear trembling in her voice. Shadow whimpered softly, pressing his head lower, his body shrinking as the man's voice grew louder. That reaction was all Ryan needed. Innocent dogs didn't freeze like that. Abused ones did. Ryan straightened, his tone firm but controlled. "Where did you get him?" The man laughed nervously. "I told you already. I found him." His eyes darted left, then right, searching for an escape. "And now I'm selling him. You want him or not?" Before Ryan could answer, the man took a step toward Shadow, hand reaching out as if to grab the chain and yank it. That single movement sent Shadow into a panic. The shepherd lunged backward, not to attack, but to get away. His claws scraped the concrete, his entire body trembling violently. Lily cried out, "Stop. You're scaring him." Ryan snapped. In one swift motion, he stepped in front of the man, one hand raised in warning. "Don't touch him," Ryan said, voice low and hard. The man froze, startled by the sudden shift in authority. Ryan wasn't threatening him physically, but the tone of a trained officer was unmistakable. "You lay a hand on that dog again, and you're going nowhere except the back of a patrol car." The man's anger returned. "Who do you think you are?" he barked. Ryan didn't hesitate. "Someone who can read a terrified K9 better than you can lie." The man opened his mouth to argue, but Shadow suddenly stepped forward, not aggressively, but protectively, placing himself between Lily and the man. His trembling didn't stop, but instinct made him shield the only people who'd shown him kindness. Ryan's breath caught. Even broken, this dog's heart still worked like a hero's. The man saw the shift, Shadow choosing them, not him, and panic flashed across his face. He took a step back, voice cracking. "Fine. Take him. I don't care." But Ryan knew the truth. The man cared. He cared because he had something to hide. The man backed away, defeated, but Ryan didn't move an inch. His focus shifted to Shadow, who still stood between Lily and danger, shaking, exhausted, but instinctively protective. Ryan slowly crouched, keeping his voice calm. "Easy, buddy, it's okay now." Shadow's ears twitched, and for the first time, he didn't look at the man. He looked at Ryan and Lily, almost as if trying to understand whether he was finally safe. Lily took a careful step forward. "Daddy, can I go near him?" she whispered. Ryan hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Slow, gentle. Let him choose you." Lily knelt in front of Shadow, her small hands resting lightly on her lap. She didn't reach out. She just waited. The shepherd's breathing remained shaky, but his eyes softened. Slowly, cautiously, he lowered his head toward her. Lily smiled, small, warm, patient. "Hi, Shadow," she whispered. "It's okay. You're safe now." Her voice wasn't loud or commanding. It wasn't even confident. It was soft, the exact softness Shadow needed. Inch by inch, he leaned forward until his nose touched her knee. The reaction was immediate. Lily's face lit up and tears welled in her eyes. "Daddy, he's letting me," she breathed. Ryan felt something tighten in his chest. K9s weren't quick to trust, especially after trauma. Yet here Shadow was choosing Lily, the child who spoke to him with pure innocence instead of fear. Shadow nudged his head gently into her lap, his trembling slowly easing as if he had finally found something familiar: kindness. Lily stroked his head lightly, careful not to startle him. "You're not a beast," she whispered. "You're a good boy, a really good boy." Shadow let out a low exhale, not of fear, but relief. His tail didn't wag fully, but it moved, just a little. That tiny movement hit Ryan harder than any confrontation. It meant Shadow was trying, healing, trusting. Ryan sat beside them, resting a hand on Shadow's back. "Hey, buddy," he murmured. "You're not alone anymore." Shadow closed his eyes briefly, leaning into the touch he had been denied for far too long. Lily looked at the dog lovingly. "Daddy, can we take him home?" she asked softly. Ryan didn't answer immediately. He knew adopting a traumatized canine wasn't simple. It meant responsibility, patience, commitment. But Shadow pressed closer to Lily, choosing her in a way no words could describe. Lily gently placed her tiny hand on the dog's chest. "I'll take care of him," she whispered. "I promise." Ryan swallowed hard. For the first time, he truly saw it. Shadow wasn't just surviving. He had finally found someone to trust. And maybe that was the beginning of his healing. Ryan gently lifted the chain from Shadow's collar and tossed it aside. The man who had tried to sell him was long gone, disappearing down an alley before Ryan could question him further. Ryan planned to file a report later, but for now, Shadow came first. With Lily holding his paw, they carefully guided the trembling shepherd toward the car. Shadow hesitated at the open door, unsure, but Lily whispered, "It's okay, we're taking you somewhere safe." After a long pause, Shadow slowly climbed inside, curling into a tight ball on the back seat. His breathing eased the moment Lily sat beside him. When they arrived at the police station, officers looked up in surprise. Ryan rarely came in on Sundays, especially with his daughter. But their surprise shifted to something else the moment they saw the dog. One officer stepped forward. "Is that?" Ryan nodded. "Shadow. Daniel Briggs, K9. A heavy silence filled the room. No one had expected to see the dog alive. They had mourned him alongside his fallen handler, believing he died trying to protect him. Seeing him now thin, shaking, scarred, hit everyone harder than they expected. Ryan moved to a quiet corner of the station and gently coaxed Shadow inside. The shepherd's nose twitched as he recognized the familiar scent of a place he once knew. He didn't bark or panic. Instead, he lifted his head, scanning the room as if searching for someone he remembered. Lily stayed beside him, her small hand resting on his back. "You're home now," she whispered, even though she didn't fully understand the weight of her words. Shadow lowered his head into her lap, letting out a soft sigh. An officer returned carrying an old folder, Shadow's file. Inside were photos from training days, medical records, deployment notes, and a picture of Shadow with his former handler, Officer Daniel Briggs. When Ryan placed the photo gently on the floor near the dog, Shadow's reaction stunned everyone. The shepherd's eyes widened, and his body leaned forward as if pulled by memory. He pressed his nose softly against the picture, then rested his head beside it. It wasn't just recognition. It was grief. Several officers turned away, swallowing hard. Shadow had lost his partner, his home, and months of safety. Yet even broken, he still carried loyalty in every breath. Lily stroked his fur gently. "It's okay," she whispered. "We'll take care of you now." Ryan watched the emotional scene quietly. The question no longer was whether Shadow deserved a new home. It was who Shadow would choose. And as the dog lifted his head to look at Lily, Ryan realized the decision might already be made. The station grew quiet as more officers gathered around, watching Shadow curl beside Lily, his head resting gently on her lap. No one forced him to move. No one touched him without reason. They all knew the bond between AK-9 and his handler ran deeper than most people understood. Losing Officer Briggs had shattered Shadow, and somehow this small girl had become the only thing that eased the weight he carried. Ryan watched the two of them closely. Every time Lily whispered something, Shadow's trembling softened. Every time she stroked his fur, he leaned in just a little more. It wasn't luck. It was connection. One of the senior officers approached Ryan quietly. "What are you planning to do?" he asked. Ryan exhaled slowly. "I don't know," he admitted. "He's been through hell. He needs a real home, someone patient, someone who understands him." The officer nodded. "He won't do well in the kennels anymore," he said softly. "Too much noise. Too many memories." Ryan knew he was right. K9S, who had seen trauma, didn't recover well in crowded spaces. They needed routine, stability, and love. Lily turned toward Ryan suddenly, her eyes pleading. "Daddy, can we keep him? Please." Ryan looked at her, then at Shadow, who lifted his head just enough to meet Ryan's eyes. It wasn't fear this time. It wasn't confusion. It was a silent question. "Are you going to leave me too?" Ryan felt something inside him shift. He had seen that look before, on children who had lost parents, on soldiers returning from battle, on animals who had survived too much. It was the look of someone trying to believe in hope again. He knelt beside Lily, placing a hand on her back. "Sweetheart, adopting a K9 isn't easy," he said gently. "It's a big responsibility. He's not just a pet. He's a dog who's been trained his whole life to protect, to work, to obey. He'll need time to heal." Lily nodded, her voice tiny but certain. "I can help him heal," she said. "I'll be gentle. I promise." Shadow nudged her hand, as if agreeing. The senior officer stepped closer. "Ryan, if anyone can handle him, it's you." And then, after a small pause, "And if anyone can reach him, it's her." Ryan looked at Lily again, then at Shadow, who had already chosen his place at her side. The decision felt less like something he was making, and more like something that had already been decided for him. He placed a gentle hand on Shadow's head. "Okay, buddy," he whispered. "If you want us, you've got us." Shadow's eyes softened, and for the first time, hope flickered where fear once lived. When they finally left the station, the sun was beginning to set, painting soft gold across the sky. Ryan opened the back door of the car, and Shadow hesitated only for a moment before climbing inside. This time, he didn't curl into a fearful ball. He sat upright, his body still trembling, but not from panic, from something closer to anticipation. Lily climbed in beside him without waiting for permission. "It's okay, Shadow," she whispered, resting her hand gently on his chest. "You're coming home with us." The dog lowered his head into her lap, letting out a deep breath that sounded like the first moment of peace he'd felt in months. On the drive home, Ryan kept glancing at the rearview mirror. Each time, he saw the same thing, Lily smiling softly and Shadow leaning against her, slowly relaxing, trusting her more with every passing mile. It hit Ryan harder than he expected. He had spent years watching partnerships form between officers and their K9S. He had seen bonds forged through danger, loyalty, and training. But he had never seen a bond form this gently, this naturally, and this quickly. Lily wasn't Shadow's handler. She wasn't trained. She was simply kind. And somehow that was enough. When they reached the house, Shadow stepped out of the car, cautiously, sniffing the air, trying to understand where he was. Ryan let him explore the yard while Lily ran inside to grab a blanket for him. Shadow walked slowly, carefully, his movements soft and uncertain. Then Lily placed the blanket on the porch and patted it. "Shadow, this is your place now," she said. The shepherd approached, hesitated, then lay down on the blanket as if claiming it. His eyes softened. His breathing steadied. He wasn't shaking anymore. Ryan sat beside him, placing a gentle hand on his back. "Welcome home, buddy," he murmured. Shadow closed his eyes briefly, leaning into the touch. It wasn't obedience. It wasn't training. It was trust, real trust, forming right in front of him. Lily sat on the other side, placing her tiny hand on Shadow's paw. "You're safe now," she whispered. "We're your family." Shadow lifted his head, looking at her with a depth of emotion only a dog who had known loss could show. His tail moved, slow, uncertain, but real. For a dog who had been beaten, abandoned, mislabeled, and forgotten, it was a sign of hope. Ryan looked at the two of them, feeling something settle in his heart. Shadow wasn't just a rescue. He wasn't a burden. He wasn't a beast. He was family now. And for the first time since losing his partner, Shadow finally belonged somewhere again. This story reminds us that strength is not always loud, and heroes are not always human. Shadow teaches us that even the bravest hearts can break when they are mistreated, but kindness can rebuild what cruelty destroys. It shows the importance of empathy, seeing beyond labels, beyond appearances, and understanding the pain someone carries silently. Lily's compassion proves that small acts of love can change a life completely. And Ryan's decision reminds us that responsibility begins the moment we notice suffering. In the end, saving someone doesn't always require power. Sometimes it only requires care.